Alright, so we can see that the alignment now of the middle edge, again, that this part, this alignment, and that is the middle edge versus the top and bottom of the keychain core, that alignment is good. Take your corner pieces, use a little bit of super glue, and just tack them on. Just like so. Okay, now just so you know, I did screw that up. I did end up putting a little too much super glue on the piece, and I ended up pulling my edge out. See, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But again, this is not a good angle for me. I'd prefer it if the thing was turned around the other way. But that's alright. We'll just give it another go. Alright. See, I'm left-handed and I'm trying to do this with my right hand because of the way that the angle is located. Now I'm just complaining, but that's alright. Okay, much better. So let this dry, and now you have a pretty good alignment. That looks pretty good if my eyeball ruler is correct. All we're going to do now is the other pieces, and again, I mean, if you have it like so, then you just glue on your other piece, stick it on there. You'll have two. Then you just flip it over, do that, glue two more. Word of advice, you'll probably want to do it on the four pieces where one is not the anchor. It doesn't really matter, but it might help with scrambling the piece later, because you'll need to do that in order to get these four pieces kind of on the same page. One quick note before I get to this finished product. Before you start gluing on these pieces onto the corners, just make sure that you give the corners a little bit of an alignment check so that they're even as possible with each other. Just rotate the middle edges of your core so that the corners are all in the same plane. The last thing you want is for your corner pieces to be slightly misaligned, like so. And if you do that, you're going to get poor alignment here. So just make sure to give it a couple of spins so that all the pieces are nice and lined up with each other before you continue. Okay, so now looking back at our core here, these four pieces have been allowed to dry a little bit. They look pretty good. So now what we want to do is check to see if the pieces, if these parts are lined up well with the middle edges. Just going to rotate that, rotate that. Okay, so these will be our guides for the middle edges. So let's see how we did. Hope I don't have to make a second take. That would be embarrassing. Okay, that's not too bad. A little bit on the tight side, but that's okay. So again, since we did our job right, what we now have is, let me just, I should heed my own words and make sure that these things are nicely aligned. Okay. So far so good. We have one dimension of our puzzle lined up correctly, and that is the up and down and perfectly parallel with the respective faces. That looks pretty good. Now let's get to aligning the rest of the edge dimensions. We have now one dimension, but we still need to take care of course, the centering. Again, that's pretty good, but we need to kind of know where their center is a little bit better than that. We want to be as close as possible to the center. See, that would not be good if you had your pieces on like that. Good along this dimension, but not so good here. So how do we go about doing this? Well, first of all, we need to take our core back to its original configuration, the way it was glued. Let's see, like so. And remember that. Where are my pieces? That is how it came when we glued our pieces on, just like so. Okay? So once we're back into this configuration, very simply what we're going to do in order to align this like that is, again, take more of our sticky note material, and again, we're looking for that. Take the pieces, take your sticky notes, lay them on the side of the puzzle just like that, and check for our width. It might be easier to do it this way. It might be a little bit easier for you to take a couple of these corners and tape them together. But again, remember, this time you're minding the thickness along two edges, so you need to make sure you don't get any excess tape on these sides. Corners are okay for this purpose. Personally, I think it's a little better to actually use the edge you're going to be using, because the dimensions are slightly off even with these things. They're not perfectly cubical. Okay, so how do we do this? Remember those extra sticky notes I was talking about, these post-it notes? 4 of them. Yeah, I lied. Not 2, but 4. You take the extra ones, just kind of layer them on just like that, and all you have to do then is check for fit. Now that comes pretty close, and again, out of these sheets of 100 post-it notes from Staples, this constitutes about 40, which is again a little bit loose, but we'll take a quick break, peel off a couple of sheets, maybe 2 on each, and we should have much better alignment. Okay, so I ended up peeling off 4 of the sheets from the inside one. So these are down to 36 each, and again, don't use that as a gospel, just take that as an approximation. Your sheets may require 1 or 2 more, or maybe even more or less than that, so your mileage will vary, so please keep that in mind. So in my case, it took going down to 36 pieces each. Now that's pretty good, and what that's going to get you is, of course, the alignment centered along this plane. And also, this also gives you, these sticky notes will also give you your alignment for the pieces going this way, which theoretically means that you get alignment this way, that way as well, pieces centered in the middle, and of course, because of these pieces here, you have yourself your middle edge layer alignment this way. So now it's time to put it all together, but it does seem that putting it all together is going to have to wait for another video. But in the meantime, just think about what we've done so far, which is again just using notepads, post-it notes, sticky notes, whatever you want to call them, using them as our gauges and our guides to line up the pieces correctly. This might already give you an inspiration for how to line up the edges perfectly, and then you could proceed to make your own puzzle. Good luck with that. I encourage it. Just try not to make it too permanent, otherwise you might mess it up, and if you mess it up, then we can't really continue unless you get a whole new core, if you did a really permanent job of securing the pieces together. Anyway, I hope I've inspired you to try something new. Hope I've got the old juices flowing in that head of yours, and maybe you can come up with your own ways of doing this. But until then, there will be my next video.